tonight on First at 9 this Thursday the 20th of February 2025. Revelation. Notorious drug trafficker Ganemulla Sanjeeva was gunned down in a contract killing worth 15 million rupees. The suspect reveals. Police seek public assistance in capturing the female suspect connected with the case. Isolated incidents. Clashes between criminals pose no threat to national security, asserts the Minister of Public Security. Power up. Sri Lanka in collaboration with India to establish 2 solar power plants in Sampur, Trincomalee. Debt restructuring. Cabinet approves agreements with Hungarian Export Credit Insurance Private Limited to restructure 30 million euros in debt.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lankawama, Kiren Perata. ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
කට්ට පරිස්සම් කරගත්තොත් අපි පරිස්සම්.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9, brought to you by Sri Lanka's premium news provider, Derana. I'm Tharindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In your top story tonight, the assailant who gunned down infamous drug trafficker and underworld leader Sanjeeva Kumara Samararatne alias Ganemulla Sanjeeva at the Halfstop Court Complex yesterday revealed that the assassination was conducted on a contract of 15 million rupees. Meanwhile, police is requesting public assistance in apprehending the female suspect who provided the assailant with the firearm used for the assassination. The infamous drug trafficker and underworld leader Sanjeeva Kumara Samararatne alias Ganemulla Sanjeeva was gunned down yesterday morning inside the Halfstop Court Complex. The assailant, who had disguised himself as an attorney, managed to flee the scene after the shooting. Ganemulla Sanjeeva was swiftly taken to the Colombo National Hospital but later succumbed to his injuries. Investigations revealed that a female suspect had also arrived at the court complex and aided the assailant by providing him with a revolver used for the assassination by smuggling it into the court complex by concealing it inside a book with the pages hollowed out in the shape of a gun. The woman, however, managed to escape after the incident and she has not yet been located by the police. The police have requested public assistance in apprehending the female suspect who aided Ganemulla Sanjeeva's murder. The woman was identified as Pinipura Devage Ishara Sevandi, a 25-year-old resident of Katuwellegama. The public is requested to provide information regarding the suspect to the Director of the Colombo Crime Division via the telephone number 071 8591 727 and the officer in charge of the Colombo Crime Division via the number 071 8591 735. However, late last evening, the assailant was apprehended by the police special task force in the Palavia area in Puttalam. He was apprehended while attempting to flee to Kalpitiya in a rented van and the driver of the vehicle was also arrested. The assailant was identified as 27-year-old Samidu Dilshan Piyumanga Kandanarachi, a resident of Maharagama who had briefly served in the Commando Regiment. During his arrest, a foreign-made grenade was found in his suitcase. The police also discovered the clothing used by the assailant during the shooting discarded near Ridivella Road, Kochikade. During interrogation, the suspect revealed that the assassination was conducted on a contract of 15 million rupees, which he received as 200,000 rupee installments every 2 weeks. The arrestee had revealed that he was planning to flee to India after the incident. The arrestee also revealed that he was also connected to a dual murder that took place in Watarappala, Mount Lavinia. The assailant and the driver were subsequently handed over to the Colombo Crime Division for further investigation last night. The Colombo Crime Division informed the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court today that the arrested suspect and the driver have been detained and are being investigated under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Meanwhile, the post-mortem examination on the remains of Ganemulla Sanjeeva was conducted today at the Colombo Police Mortuary and the victim's elder sister had come forward to claim his remains. In the meantime, a motion has been submitted to the Colombo Magistrates Court claiming that the suspect arrested in connection with the murder of Ganemulla Sanjeeva yesterday, being falsely identified as Mohammad Azam Shirfuddin, has caused prejudice to members of Shirfuddin's family. The motion was filed by Mohammad Azam Shirfuddin's brother. In a separate development, it was confirmed that the 9-year-old child who sustained injuries during the recent shooting in Kadewatta, Middeniya, has succumbed to his injuries. The incident that took place on the 18th of February claimed the lives of a 39-year-old man and his 6-year-old daughter and injured his 9-year-old son. The shooting was conducted by two unidentified assailants with a T-56 type assault rifle, and investigations have revealed that the shooting was conducted due to a personal dispute with the 39-year-old victim. The remains of the victims were brought today to their home in the Kudagalara area in Middeniya. Minister of Public Security Ananda Vijayapala claims that isolated conflicts between rival criminals are not a threat to national security. Addressing Parliament today, he claimed that reports of the security details provided to judges being withdrawn are false. However, opposition legislators questioned the validity of the minister's statement. Meanwhile, Justice Minister Harshana Nanayakara informed Parliament that government's proposed amendments to the Criminal Procedure Code include provisions for detainees with security risks to provide testimony remotely without physically appearing before court. Yesterday's murder at the Halfstop Court complex was a threat not only to the courts but society as a whole. Judges were provided with security details. However, recently they were informed in writing that their security will be withdrawn. I like to remind the Public Security Minister that he is responsible for the safety of parliamentarians and other public representatives. I urge you to pay attention to this issue and take necessary actions.
We regret yesterday's unfortunate incident at the court. Government has paid strict attention to yesterday's shooting. Swift decisions were made in this regard and the suspected shooter was apprehended within hours. There is no threat to national security. These are isolated conflicts between organized criminal gangs. They have prevalent in society for a long time. Government is of the view that one or two of such incidents should not be viewed as threats to national security. The opposition leader claimed that the security of judges and other judicial officials had been withdrawn. No such measures has been taken.
Following discussions with all parties, a consensus was reached that an armed guard is required when certain prisoners appear before court. Further, there must be a thorough search process. This is the reason we have presented to the Cabinet amendments to the Criminal Procedure Code. We hope to table it in Parliament by March or April. The amendments include provisions for certain detainees to provide testimonies via video links from the place of their detention without physically appearing before court.
The opposition leader brought up national security. What did Deputy Minister of Public Security say? He claimed they would deal with the underworld within 2 months. It has been 4 months since then and there have been 13 underworld-related shootings and 12 deaths. These include 2 innocent children whose father was affiliated with the criminal underworld. Now they claim that there is no threat to national security. They also said that the security of judges will be withdrawn. I challenge them to prove me false. A circular has been issued. How can a judge rule against criminals without fear? This is the reason judges were provided security details. Yesterday was the first time a defendant was murdered in at the dock. This might be an inside job. Please launch an investigation. It appeared as if several ministers rushed to the court following the incident. However, they were already on their way for the Bar Association's election. This is why the Justice Minister and Acting IGP were there. I remind the Public Security Minister that he is responsible for the safety of parliamentarians. They might claim we are asking for more security because we are afraid. We are not afraid. However, if a parliamentarian was to lose their life, he will be responsible. The government and the President Anura Dissanayake receive protection from their party affiliates. That is not the case for us. The party that murdered Vijay Kumaratunga will not hesitate to do the same to their opponents.
පිරිපුන් ජීවිතයකට ඔබ සමගින් පෙරට Union Assurance.
චන්දුරුසුමේ කාගෙත් මනාපේ සිග TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
Don't waste time. Start your degree with pending A-level results this February with our partner universities. Call ACBT on 0117 699 499.
Less sugar, same great taste. From Melbourne.
Cabinet spokesperson Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa says Minister of Public Security Ananda Vijayapala will make a special announcement in Parliament tomorrow regarding the fatal shooting of the notorious drug trafficker and underworld leader Sanjeeva Kumara Samararatne alias Ganemulla Sanjeeva. The cabinet spokesperson further noted that the government will take strict action regarding the incident and conduct further investigations.
අධිකරණය තුළ වෙඩි තැබීමක් සිද්ධ වුණා. රජය ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා මේක සාමාන්‍ය සිදුවීමක් ජාතික ආරක්ෂාවට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ කියලා. මේක ජාතික ආරක්ෂාවට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ කියන්නේ කොහොමද?
මේක සුළු සිදුවීමක් හැටියට
The Minister of Public Security or government did not claim that this is a minor incident.
සිවෙක් ප්‍රකාශ කළේ නෑ.
එයා ලඝු කරලා තියෙන ඉතාමත් පොඩි සිද්ධියක් වුණා කියන එක.
ඒක අපි
We will consider this a serious matter and will conduct investigations, make arrests and enforce laws strictly regarding this case.
ගණේමුල සංජීව කියන පුද්ගලයා අංක 9 මහේස්ත්‍රාත් අධිකරණයට ඉදිරිපත් කිරීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් තොරතුරු තියෙනවද? ඒකේ මහේස්ත්‍රාත් නැහැ. මහේස්ත්‍රාත් හිටියේ නැතුව අනිත් නඩු ඔක්කොම අංක 2 උසාවියට දාද්දි මේක විතරක් අංක 5ට දැම්මේයි කියලා ඔබතුමාට අදහසක් තියෙනවද? සහ සැකකරු කෙලින්ම අංක 9ට යන්නෙත් නැතුව 2ට යන්නෙත් නැතුව කෙලින්ම 5ට ගියේ කොහොමද කියන එක සම්බන්ධයෙන් මොනවද තොරතුරු තියෙනවද?
ප්‍රශ්න කිරීම අවසන් නැති නිසා මට
Since investigations are ongoing, I cannot reveal all details right now. As you raised doubts, it is possible that this attack was perpetrated with assistance from a group who provided tips when the individual was moved from court number 9 to number 5. At the moment, the suspect's phone calls are being investigated and the Minister of Public Security will make a special announcement tomorrow in Parliament regarding the current status of the investigations. However, I doubt that all the details will be disclosed. Without disrupting the investigations, we are prepared to provide the necessary information. All investigations regarding the duration of the conspiracy behind this attack, whether it has connections to anyone abroad, and the involvement of those who provided tips are currently underway. With this incident, a chain of violent events will also be revealed, including the incident in Middania. The victim has stated that he was going to be a state witness. We need to look into these matters as it is the police responsibility.
මේවා අපි හොයන්නට ඕනකම තියෙනවා. ඒක පොලිස් විමර්ශන වල වැඩ.
එතකොට මේ සිද්ධියෙන් පස්සේ අර කැබිනට් අමාත්‍යවරයෙක් රියදුරාට කතා කරන්නේ බූරුවක් කියලා. එතකොට ඒ පුද්ගලයා ගෙදර ගියාම තමන්ගේ බිරිඳට දරුවන්ට කොහොමද මුහුණ දෙන්නේ? තමන්ගේ හාම්පුතා තමන්ට බූරුවා කියලා කතා කරන්නේ.
එම කලබලකාරී ආතතික තත්ත්වය
I would like to apologize for what the Deputy Minister said during that tense situation.
දෙන් මම කනගාටු ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
Meanwhile, President Anura Dissanayake says that investigations have revealed connections between the underworld and certain individuals within official institutions responsible for public security. The President made these remarks during the first meeting of the 10th Parliament's Ministerial Consultative Committee on Public Security today. He affirmed that all necessary measures will be taken to completely eradicate the underworld in the coming period. Addressing the security of court complexes, Minister of Justice Harshana Nanakara stated that a proposal has been prepared to enhance security. He added that future measures will involve the use of modern technology to examine all relevant parties, including lawyers. Meanwhile, responding to concerns about potential ethnic and religious divisions stemming from certain places of worship established in the northern province, the President emphasized that religion and racism should be completely excluded from politics. Additionally, the meeting highlighted the need for establishing a national disaster committee. The Cabinet of Ministers has approved the signing of an agreement with Hungarian Export Credit Insurance Private Limited to restructure 30 million euros of debt. Meanwhile, the Cabinet approval was also granted to the introduction of comprehensive legislation addressing national security and terrorism prevention following amendments to the Prevention of Terrorism Act. With that, here's more on the decisions taken during this week's Cabinet meeting. As part of the external debt restructuring process, the Cabinet of Ministers has approved the signing of an agreement with Hungarian Export Credit Insurance Private Limited to restructure 30 million euros of debt. This agreement aligns with the Memorandum of Understanding signed with the Committee of Official Creditors, ensuring transparency and comparability. Additionally, Hungarian Export Credit Insurance Private Limited has agreed to provide loan concessions through the revision of outstanding debts, with all revised loans covered under this proposed agreement. Meanwhile, approval was granted to sign a Memorandum of Understanding to facilitate opportunities for Sri Lankan workers under the Seasonal Worker Program introduced by the South Korean government under the E8 visa category for up to 3 terms within a maximum period of 3 years. Similarly, approval was given to launch a pilot project with private sector involvement to reduce non-revenue water losses in the Gold City water supply scheme, which currently serves 28,000 consumers but has halted new connections due to shortages leaving 5,400 applicants on a waiting list. With government and the National Water Supply and Drainage Board unable to fund the 40.5 billion rupees required for the new system, the project aims to cut water losses from 45% to 15% through a performance-based approach. The Asian Development Bank is supporting the initiative with consultative assistance and a $1.28 million grant. In the meantime, a broad law addressing national security and terrorism prevention is set to be introduced following the amendment of the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The draft bill initially challenged in the Supreme Court has been revised by the legal draftsman. A committee chaired by President's Counsel Riensi Arsakularatne was appointed to further study and refine the draft for finalisation. Meanwhile, during today's cabinet briefing, Deputy Minister of Economic Development Professor Anil Jayanta Fernando said that government expects 700 billion rupees in revenue this year through the taxes associated with vehicle imports.
Yes, we have predictions. However, the decision to allow vehicle importation is not solely for revenue generation. This is a misconception. Following several years of economic contraction, we need to expand the transport sector, which is why we have introduced vehicle imports on a phased basis. A reasonable amount of foreign reserves is being allocated for this purpose. The maximum amount that can be utilized has been estimated by the Central Bank and the Ministry of Finance. We expect to generate around 700 billion rupees in revenue from this initiative.
There is
a spillover effect associated with vehicle importation. Our projections account not only for direct revenue but also for the economic expansion this policy is expected to drive. Additionally, foreign reserves will not be utilized all at once. We will implement necessary measures by closely analyzing data and market trends. We also have data on the opening of letters of credit. Based on this, we believe that the vehicle imports will remain within the set limits. Demand may exceed expectations. We will have a clearer picture in the coming months.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
ඩයිබටසෝල් සීනිවලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
Single 1111 up to 60% off from the 11th November to the 17th of November.
Kalani wire කිසිගින්නක් නෑ.
කිසිගින්නක් නෑ. Kalani Fire Shield Wire.
Malibu chocolate cream, inguru and lemon puff. Less sugar, same great taste. From Malibu.
Responsibility to look after our health.
The best nutritional supplement for diabetic patients with no added sugar. Maliban Vitagen. Stay healthy for a good reason.
Minister of Agriculture KD Lanka says that the new government's maiden budget aims to establish economic democracy in Sri Lanka, an aspect that was lacking under previous regimes. He made these remarks on the third day of the debate on the 2025 budget in Parliament today. However, leader of the Sarvajana Bale and opposition MP Dilit Jayavira expressed that the current government's budget fails to clearly indicate a way forward and does not address the needs of the working class as portrayed by the government.
ඇඩ්වකාට සභාපති කියලා දුන්නා මේ අයව ධනපතියන්ට හිතකාමී අයව ඒකට අපි හරිම සතුටුයි කිය. ඉතින් මට දැන් අහන්න තියෙන රාල්කාන්ත මහත්තයා ඔබට සතුටුයිද දැන්? අනුරිසානායක මහත්තයා JVP නෙමෙයි. අනුරිසානායක මහත්තයා JVP ගෙන් අයින් වෙලා ගොඩක් කල් දැන්. මේක රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහගේ අයවයිලු.
It has been said that this is Ranil Wickremesinghe's budget. But did Ranil Wickremesinghe have any framework to govern with? No, he was merely trying to move forward while ignoring the government. This budget clearly demonstrates that we are taking a different approach. Our economic principle is economic democracy, which is reflected throughout the budget. Previously, the system was built on monopolies, benefiting only a select group of friends. While some in the health and other sectors continue to raise complaints, it is not because they received nothing, but because their allocations are lower compared to other categories. However, we have reached a point where for the first time ever, farmers are not complaining about low paddy prices.
පළවෙනි වතාවට පුළුවන් වෙලා තියෙනවා වර්තමාන පාලනය යටතේ.
අපි මේ රටට ආදරය කරන, මේ රටේ මිනිස්සුන්ට ආදරය කරන
As politicians who love this country and its citizens, we aim to take the next step forward, having already made some progress as a nation. Particularly observing how our neighbouring country is progressing at a much faster pace, we proposed the concept of an entrepreneurial state. Through this budget, 13 billion has been allocated to the Ministry of Industry and Entrepreneurship Development. However, with approximately 300,000 unrecognized entrepreneurs, this amount is insufficient. If distributed among them, each would receive only around 16,000 rupees, which is not even enough. Since this is your maiden budget, I must point out that it lacks any concrete numbers indicating a clear way forward. We cannot expect progress from something that is not there. The government has a golden opportunity here. Imagine if some of the current government ministers were in the opposition. There would have been countless protests over the past 6 months. Our goal in articulating these concerns is to understand how to move forward. However, there is a significant contradiction between the NPP manifesto and this budget. There is nothing in the budget that aligns with what was promised in the manifesto. We have no issue if the government chooses to follow a socialist economy, the economic democracy they claim, or even Ranil Wickremesinghe's framework. But we must be honest, there is no socialism in this budget. If there were, the working class people would have felt that for the first time in 77 years, a budget was created with them in mind. Under which expenditure category would they feel this? Is it because Aswasuma was increased by 1,500 rupees? Because kidney patients received an additional 2,000 rupees? Because salaries were raised by 9,000 rupees per month? No, they do not feel it. Our vision is to build an entrepreneurial state, to give hope to the youth of this country, bring back the entrepreneurs who have left, and attract investments. Meanwhile, Fitch Ratings says the new Sri Lankan government's maiden budget reflects its commitment to increasing fiscal revenues. Fitch added that if successful, this approach could strengthen Sri Lanka's credit profile. The agency stated that the provisional budget deficit of 6.8% of GDP for 2024 aligns with its expectations. The Sri Lankan government aims to raise revenue to 15.1% of GDP in 2025, up from 11.4% in 2023. This target surpasses Fitch's assumption that the 15% threshold would not be reached until 2026. The budget includes a 36.5% increase in revenue from taxes on external trade and a 13.1% rise in income tax revenues. Fitch believes these goals are achievable based on measures already announced and implemented. Fitch stated that there is still a risk that the government may slow down this process if higher imports negatively affect Sri Lanka's external stability, such as by depleting foreign exchange reserves. Overall, the medium-term fiscal outlook remains challenging, and Fitch expects revenue growth to slow down significantly from 2026 unless additional policies are introduced. And with that, here's a look at local news across the island in brief. Thorough inspections will be conducted on all persons, including lawyers, entering the appeals court complex. The decision was taken during a special meeting today with the participation of police officers, court officials and representatives from the Colombo Law Society. The decision comes in the wake of the underworld figure known by alias Ganemulla Sanjeeva being murdered at the Halfstope court complex yesterday by an individual disguised as an attorney. Meanwhile, approximately 30 rounds of live ammunition was discovered in the possession of several young school children in the Hasselak area yesterday, which they confessed to have found inside a woodshed at a nearby house. The army and police scene of crime officers inspected the homes of the children, and investigations into the incident will continue. In other local news, 6 elephants were killed and another injured after a group of 7 elephants collided with the Minagaya Express train in the Galloy area last night. The Department of Wildlife Conservation and the Department of Railways have commenced further investigations into the incident. Welcome back. India's Adani Green Energy says Sri Lanka could have saved over $270 million annually by displacing higher cost fuel-based tariffs if the proposed wind farm projects in Mannar and Punarin had not been withdrawn. Last week, Adani Green Energy, which had proposed to construct 484 megawatt renewable energy wind farms at Mannar and Punarin along with a transmission system with an investment of $1 billion, said it is respectfully withdrawing from the project. In a media statement, Adani Green Energy says that Sri Lanka could have saved over $270 million annually by displacing higher cost fuel-based tariffs if the proposed renewable energy wind farm project had not been withdrawn. Adani claims that Sri Lanka will have to pay $5.5 billion in importing fossil fuel for power generation over the project's expected 20-year lifetime. They added that the Sri Lankan government's electricity purchase cost will be reduced by about $83 million per year, corresponding to a reduction in electricity tariffs of consumers by 17 rupees per unit, as the project would generate 1.5 billion units of power per year. If the project were to go forward, it would have met the energy demand of 600,000 households and cut off 1.06 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions per year, and according to Adani, the economic benefit of which is said to be a further $100 million per year. As Sri Lanka has set a goal of achieving 70% renewable energy generation by 2030 and becoming carbon neutral by 2050, Adani claims that the island nation would have to add 7,000 megawatts of fresh renewable energy capacity. Adani raised questions as to whether Sri Lanka is capable of achieving its goal, claiming that its recent withdrawal from wind power projects in Sri Lanka will be a setback for the nation, which is trying to attract foreign direct investment as well as grow its green economy. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka, in partnership with India, will establish 2 solar power plants at Sampur in Trincomalee with capacities of 50 and 70 megawatts. The project will be conducted as a joint venture between the Ceylon Electricity Board and India's National Thermal Power Corporation on the basis of construction, ownership and operation. It has been decided to implement the proposed 50 megawatt solar power project by the Trincomalee Power Company Limited, established as a partnership between CEB and the National Thermal Power Corporation to implement the charcoal power project, which was planned to be constructed at Sampur in Trincomalee, but was not initiated due to adverse effects on health as well as ecological destruction that would ensue. The project has received approval from the Cabinet of Ministers. In your stock update, the Colombo Bourse closed in negative territory today as a result of price losses in counters such as Selinco Holdings, Hatton National Bank and Melster Corp. The broader all-share price index closed 1.26% lower at 16,858.97 points, while the S&P SL20 fell by 1.20% to close at 5,032.94 points. Market turnover crossed 2.9 billion rupees. The capital goods sector was the top contributor to the market turnover, followed by the banking sector. Furthermore, foreigners closed as net sellers, offloading shares worth 732 million rupees. And that's all for tonight. Thank you for joining and have a good night.